So, Ronnie, many thanks for taking time out to come to this event today. Elevator Sound and Novation, in this really first time in Bristol, I think, that they've done something like this. So it's fantastic to have somebody like yourself along.
So what would you say about Bristol? It was lawless. We just used to get our sound systems. We used to get the decks. We used to get your mum's records. You used to get your dad's records. You used to go and, get as much graffiti paint as you could, and then you go somewhere and you would make it happen. And you made friends. We'd get the lino out. We'd go down to the bandstand in the middle of the town. Get the bandstand, and we'd go and we'd all start breakdancing. Dennis Murray, it was known as Easy Groove. He was like the center role of everyone. So for me, that was just like a real short, sharp introduction about some of the names and some of the heads that were there. But you kind of had to be there. But I was quite lucky because I was so young and, I was quite reserved as well. And people would always kind of knew who I was because I was never really great at anything. But I was always there. I was like first.
So you immersed yourself in this culture, this happening that was happening.
It wasn't just me. There was a whole group of us, but we all came from our different areas. I was born on the cusp of St. Paul's and St. Andrews. So when I had my good side, I would go to St. Andrews and pretend that football and everything was nice and cozy. And when I had my mischievous side, we'd go down to St. Paul's, and then we would end up in all Ajax blues and just, listen to reggae music all night. So that was kind of my social upbringing. But I was fortunate to have two brothers. And one of them was in a reggae crew called Viking, and another one was in another crew called UD4. And one of them was mostly associated with hip-hop, soul, and funk, and R&B, and DJ, and the graffiti, and the other one was dealt with sound system culture, building your own sound system, and all blues dance, and everybody knows a lot of blues dances. I'm sure everyone here, blues is like an all-night reggae jam, which happens 7 days a week. You go in there, you want to buy special brew, it costs you like £17 for one can of special brew. That was the kind of vibe it was. You didn't go and buy 20 cigarettes, you went and bought a single for a tenner. It was that type of vibe, so.
But it was also generational, I think, as well, because, and probably around this same time, we're looking at maybe mid to late 80s. It seemed like a big explosion in Bristol. You had it with the hip hop and the blues and the reggae, but also, there was the punk scene as well. That was kind of really, there was something going on there, and the whole skateboarding thing. And I guess prior to that, it was probably a few barren years, probably a lot of goths knocking about. And
it's real funny because the punks had a big role to play. I'm sure we all know 3D and Delge from Massive Attack, and we all know where he comes from, and that whole punk thing, he brought that thing right through into the Wild Bunch. We all know that there was a band called Pig Bag, and I think Nelly had something to do with Pig Bag. So Nelly Hooper was the person who was involved with Wild Bunch. He was like, the token DJ who, really made Wild Bunch into what it was. And then it just, all of a sudden, it just transformed. We saw Malcolm McLaren on TV come back and from the States, and he brought this vibe. And that was it. We saw some guys breakdancing. We saw someone doing graffiti. We said, we're going to do that. So we all went to our mum's record collections, got the belt drive, and just started scratching in the kitchen. It was just as simple as that. But the transformation, you had bands like Restriction. But for me, it really happened when Smith and Mighty just started to just do their things differently. And Smith and Mighty, for me, were, I used to stand outside on Ashley Road, and you could hear the music coming out the window. And I just used to stand outside and just earwigging what was coming out of that window, because there was like 909s and 808s. And, for me, seeing Ray with his big locks, I was like, God, these guys.
So did you get involved in DJing first? So obviously you're there at the dugout or places, the what was the Moon Club? You were there watching.
I love these questions, right? Because it was like the Moon, the dugout was this place where I was just a little bit too young to go.
Okay.
So I used to have to go and stand outside, and the amount of times I tried to sneak in was a joke, and the amount of times I got kicked out was even more. Yeah. So I was so gutted that I must have been about 13. So I never actually went to the dugout, but I used that as my inspiration. I imagined what it would be like in the dugout now. I'm like, damn, I want to make tunes like what's going on in there.
So
But
DJing was your first. Obviously, we discussed the studio and the music side, but was DJing the first getting in there, scratching in the kitchen with your mum's record collection? Was that your first
close.
move?
I think the first thing, right, because to be a DJ, you had to have turntables, you had to have records. We didn't have none of that. So my first one was beatbox. You use what you got. You use your mouth. You know what I mean? I used to beatbox in class, and I think I must have got suspended about 3 times just for beatboxing in class. They were like, "What are you doing?" I'm making music. They just didn't get it. So
If those teachers will be here now, eh?
there's a story there. One of my teachers, after I won the Mercury Music Prize, because I said that I got thrown out of school because of you. And one day I was in bed, I heard the door go, and I opened the door. It's Mr. Williams. He's like, "I apologize so much." I was like, "No way." I was like,
Justice.
Trust me, it was a late night, and I was seeing triple. And I could not believe it. I was like, no chance. And it was him. He was like, "I'm so sorry." And I let him in. We drank tea, and I gloated, as you do. So yeah.
So you started bringing out records around kind of 92, 93. What was your move into the studio? How did that happen?
Well, I was fortunate. I just saw Neil Davidge in the back, and for me, I was always just like, I was quite a loner, and there was no studios. We just used to go to all these different shops on the Gloucester Road, and we used to go in there and just mess around with the drum machines for hours and hours, because we could never afford to buy them. It was like a Yamaha RX-17. It was like 300 quid. It was like, never going to buy that. Just stand in there and just make beats on it all day in the shop and then go home. But lucky enough, I had 2 brothers, and obviously I said already, and one of them had a bit of money, so he set up a studio, and he bought a Roland 707, and that was one of my first experiences. But
the drum machine, the Roland 707.
Roland 707 drum machine, and it was okay. It made one type of beat. That's all it did. It was like the same beat over and over again. It was like, okay, you know what? It's time to move on. But I was fortunate enough to be a part of a place called the Basement Project, Sefton Park. It was called Sefton Park Youth Club. And I got expelled from school because I was obviously beatboxing too much and pissing everyone off. I found myself going to Sefton Park and going to the Basement Project. And rather than them telling you what to do, they would ask you. They goes, "Oh, what do you want to do?" I was like, "Well, I want to play basketball," even though I'm a bit short. I'm only 5'7", whatever. But they bought a basketball net, and they bought the stuff and everything. We played that for a bit. It started raining. It got corroded. That got fucked. We thought, they want to do that no more. They go, "So what do you want to do then?" He goes, "Well, I like music. I want to play music." So they went and bought a drum machine. Mastered the drum machine. I was like, "Yeah, I like this." They goes, "What's next?" I goes, "Yeah, I want a sampler." A sampler? How much is that? It's like $2,000. Phew. Okay, so do you know what they did? They did a raffle. So we went round Bristol, and we did a raffle, and we made the money, and then we bought an Akai S950. My dream had come true. I could be MC Shan and Molly Mall. I was going around. I sampled everything that I could. Do you know what I mean? And then at the same time, I met a friend of mine called Andrew Bracey. His name is Risky Business, and he used to work in the shop where I used to go and annoy people all day by playing 808s all day. And then we kind of teamed up and became a little bit of a crew. I found myself just learning whatever they put in front of me. In school, they told me I was an idiot. Straight up and down, they said, "You're an idiot." I was like, okay, maybe I am an idiot, but I'm going to go and prove you wrong. So the Basement said, "No, you're not an idiot. You just need to focus." And the Basement, Sefton Park, made me really focus on what I'm good at. And I was good at messing around with electronic equipment. That was my thing. I loved it. Yeah. And then eventually people would come down and start asking me, "What you doing?" And I would start showing them. And that is when I became a tutor. So I was a student, and then I became a tutor. Myself and Jill Sargent, who's a great engineer from the Basement, she also, gave me some very, very good guidance along the way. So that's kind of like that's personal. I don't really get a chance to say some of this stuff, but it's always good when I see some faces in the crowd and they know, and I can see the smile. It's good because it's all true, and it's fun as well.
So this is something you're obviously very connected to at this early age. You know, school, as is most for most young people, a bummer. But you know, to stick a drum machine, a sampler, and a love of music and a love of the nightlife. And this was obviously clicking with you. And like you say, when you go on a tutoring, you're still learning yourself. You know, you're teaching
every day.
other people how to use machines and create grooves and whatnot, but you're still learning yourself, you know. So by '93, you're releasing records now.
Well,
You're
it was
doing
close. It was close. By '93, I wanted to release records.
that. Okay.
This road here, Stokescroft and Gloucester Road, is the meeting point. It is the vein of Bristol. Is where you bump into every single person who's doing something, regardless in Bristol. You know, from the bottom to the top, or from the top to I don't know which is which, but I met all my people here. I met Crust on this street. I met Di skateboarding down this road here. You know, we just looked into each other's eyes, and he stopped and I stopped, and we just got talking. You know, we became good friends and started making music together. I met Crust because he was tutoring and I was tutoring, and then we became close. And I met Suv because Suv was, on his bike doing what Suv does. And, you know, these are the members that, to me, all these people, we came together as a unit, and it was so natural. It's like we were all looking for the same thing, and we became so tight. You know, there were other people involved as well, which wasn't really into the music, but they as inspiring.
Yeah.
And you find your like-minded set of friends, the people who you connect with, and then things just grow organically. And that is, for me, when we said, okay, what we're going to do, we've got no money, we're eating veggie sauce mix every day with beans, we're broke, you know what I mean, we ain't got no qualifications, well, we all live in a one-bedroom flat together. What the fuck are we going to do? Okay, you know what, we're going to make some tunes. Smith and Mighty gave us a studio, and they said, go for it, boys, just use that room. Flynn and Flora was there as go, rest in peace, my girl, love you bad, you know, and we made it happen. We went in there every day, you know, and we was mad inspired by it. Smith and Mighty just said, go for it, guys. FZ1, room, 24 hours, you know, a lot.
And so musically, what were you taking your inspiration from? I mean, obviously this is kind of post the original wave of acid house and rave, and which I guess is where the jungle sound, I guess, through people like Fabio and Groove Rider. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Randall.
But this was the sound that was happening there. But, you know, I mean, nowadays, obviously, it's easy for people to make music and have something to go back to. I guess in those early days, you were just doing, like, something that was completely fresh, you know, and with very little to lean on in terms of influence.
I still think it's as hard today as it was back in the day. I just think nowadays there's just more competition. It's like everyone's doing it now. Everyone's making
But I mean,
music.
the genre was a groundbreaking genre because there hadn't really, you know, it was, to a lot of people, it was music that was like heavy metal or thrash. It was like, what's that? You know?
Oh yeah, people didn't get it for real because we used to go to Universe raves. We used to go to all these parties, and we would listen to all these tunes, and some of it was just like, whoa, this is just beyond me. But through all that craziness, what would happen is the music would just drop down to maybe just a break and just a bass line. And we just thought, yeah, we like that. We're going to take that part which we like. All the other stabs and all the other crazy vocals and all that madness that was going on.
vocals.
It was like after like 6 hours of that stuff, you were like, you know what? This is a little bit crazy. But you always wait for that little boom, boom for about 30 seconds, and that was it. So we thought, okay, you know, we're going to go back to the studio, take the pieces that we do like, and then we start to add our influences to the music. So that is when we start to raid your mum's collection. Do you know what I mean? It's like you go in there and just like Elvis. Okay, let's take some Elvis samples and some Pat Boone or whatever it was that you could just just take that stuff out and just, you know, until we went deep and started using all the Bob James and all your funk and soul and then we got approached by a guy called Brian G from London because he got hold of our tapes from Rhythm King. He got sacked from Rhythm King, and he then picked up our tapes with him when he got sacked. And then he called me and said, I've got some tapes. My name's Brian G. I want to put these tunes out. And that was the beginning of the beginning, and that was great. He took my tunes and cross tunes, and that
And
was when
was this the
and that was when
V
Recordings
Recordings label?
started. Yeah, this is when V Recordings started. Brian G just came, and he's been my father ever since. I speak to him every single day, even now. V Recordings is, for me, it was the lifeblood that I needed. I needed to have that because we had nothing before that.
Yeah. I mean, and this, I mean, I noted, I was looking at your discography. I mean, by about 1994, 95, I mean, you were smashing out records. You were on V Recordings, so many 12 inches, and this was around the time when you set up your own label as well, Full Cycle. So this was obviously a really intense period now of production for you. What was going on? What was the ideas just flowing?
I got to be honest with you, man. It's like I think the weed was flowing. It's just, weed's got a lot to answer for, and we was in a zone that we didn't even realize that we was in. It's like, I saw some stuff the other day with Nile Rodgers, and he was talking about what he was doing, and he didn't realize what he was in. It's not until you actually take a step back and you look back at it, and you look at all the press over the years, and you look at all the videos, and you look at some of the shit that you were wearing and some of the shit that you wasn't wearing, and you look back and you think to yourself, damn, we was in a moment, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Maybe a few photographs here and there, and stuff like that. But
This was just raw, just passion for the music.
We didn't care about anything else apart from every day going into the studio. We rolled out some beats, then we would go DJ, and sometimes we left it so late to go to the next gig that we had like a key meter in my electric, and there was like 99 pence left, but it would take an hour to save all the samples in the sampler. So you would then go to the gig. By the time you got back, you only had that one DAT tape, and you come back and all the samples would be gone. So we had to just live with it. There was no like take 276. Like nowadays, it was like you made the tune,
all hardware.
You put it on the DAT, and then you knew that when you get home, it was gone. So that was it. So the reason why we had so many tunes, because we had to move on. We couldn't like go back and let's just tweak that. No chance. It was never going to happen. So we just kept on DAT tape. And I actually, the other day, I found about 1,000 DAT tapes of unreleased stuff that I could not believe in my house the other day. I was stunned. Crazy.
So at this point, it's really rolling for you and the guys. And as I mentioned, you set up the Full Cycle label, which was, your home. This was for you and the crew to...
Well, that was with a guy called Chris Wharton. From there used to be Universe, and then there was like WTP called Where's the Party, and they did Castle Morton. There was like an illegal rave, and one of the people that run that rave was a guy called Chris Wharton, and he came in and he invested into Full Cycle, and we became I wish I'd have bought some pictures, man, because I'll tell you what, we looked funky back then. So yeah, and he came in, and then myself and Crust, we wanted to have our own label. We saw what Brian was doing, and we just, strictly we just copied what he was doing. It was this brother sister label, and it just worked out really well for us. We had people like Becky Hubbard, who we call Becky Legs. She was a great member of the team, and we just worked as a unit. We got no business, in no sense. We just went in and we just did the best that we could do and just made it happen. And we loved that era. DJing all over Bristol, non-stop, from Creation to some of the clubs I can't even remember.
But you'd gone global by this point as well. Then I guess the whole drum and bass genre, obviously what Goldie was doing as well. Yeah. I mean, you were at the top of this new wave.
Not by choice, not by choice. You know what I mean? It's like I always describe us as being something like the people's champions. Because we didn't really worry about our image. We didn't care about how we looked. We didn't put on shiny jackets, and we didn't do stuff to us to make us look like, we just would just come out in our everyday clothes. And I think people, they kind of like that, especially Bristol people. They just love the fact, it's just the music and the beats. And it was a time when I wish we could go back there. I wish you could turn back the clock, because it was such a great great atmosphere, so many different places to play in Bristol. And I think one of the things about Bristol now, we don't have, we don't have that freedom of being able to have those kind of events anymore.
And so it was around this time, obviously, you were all producing yourself, Crust, Die, Sov. And then around about 96, you had the idea to form, a collaborative group, which you named as Reprazent.
Well, to be fair, this is what happened. We was putting out tunes, and the tunes were starting to get noticed. They was getting noticed by people in the industry that heard about the music, but didn't necessarily know what it was. Giles Peterson played It's a Jazz Thing on the wrong speed. And then it got picked up, and someone said actually it's the wrong speed, and then he put it on the right speed, and then that is when we got approached by Universal and Talking Loud. And for us, being approached by a major was something which we didn't even know what a major company was. We knew that Spiff and Mighty, and we knew that Massive Attack were, on top of the pops and signed to London, and they had a nightmare. Fresh Four did their thing, and so for us, anything to do with majors was like a no-no. It was like nah. But then Mo Wax came in as well, so you had Talking Loud and you had Mo Wax fighting it out, trying to sign like Roni Size, you know what I mean, and the crew. But because of It's a Jazz Thing, it was mainly targeted around me. I think Mo Wax lost out to Portishead. They really wanted Portishead and Massive Attack, so their next target was us. But I really wanted to be a part of Talking Loud. I love Talking Loud. Talking Loud was
It was around that time they signed the Masters at Work and the New Eureka Soul
exactly the same
as well,
time.
so
it was exactly the same time.
Kind of great home to have those artists on.
It was like walking into that building for the first time for me was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it was like we've come home. We had a great manager at the time, and that was fantastic. But we didn't even have a name, so we were just a group of guys. And so we came up with a name. They goes, "Oh, so what are you gonna call yourself?" I was like, "Yeah, State of Mind. Yeah, State of Mind." And they was like, I'm not having State of Mind. It was like, so we sat down, and it was at a time where we was in New York and everything. And it's like, yeah, everyone was like, yo, represent, yo. So we came back from New York, and it's like, yeah, what you go? Yeah, represent. It's like, okay, we're gonna change the spelling though. We're gonna get our real dyslexia out there. Do you know what I mean? And we're gonna really change it, put the A in there, and then is it represent or represent? So
I think a lot of people stuck Zs in words around that time.
A's and Zs and all that kind of shit. It was and it just worked for us, and we got the hands, and then we were born. And the thing about represent is like, okay, we did everything together. You know what I mean? We did it all together all the time, and there was no way. I said to the label, because look, there's no way I'm going to do this unless I can bring the whole crew with me. So that's what I did.
And so we're actually fast running out of time. We've been having such a great chat already, but let's try and speed on a bit. So listen, we all know about New Forms, yeah. So there's probably not much to go into detail on, but New Forms was the Reprazent album, which was a real game changer. And as probably everybody knows, went on to win the Mercury Music Prize of that year. Did you lose the check? Because they always seem to lose the check.
No. We donated the money to the Basement Project.
Ah, wicked. So took it back to where the roots come from.
Yeah, and if you'd have seen the faces of the rest of the band, they shat themselves. They was like, what the? I was like, and we're going to donate this. And I got daggers. But no joke, I got daggers. But the funny thing about it is, like, when we were nominated, we didn't even hear about the Merc. We didn't know nothing about any award ceremony ever. We was on tour, and we was just doing our show, and things weren't going that great. It was going okay, but we were putting the work in, and next thing you know, my manager says, "Oh, you guys have been nominated for the Mercury." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't even know what the Mercury is, so just whatever." So then we come back to UK, we start doing our thing, then we see we're doing a little bit more press. Then we get in this minibus, cramped up little minibus. I'm screwing, it's like cramped up, it's horrible. We drive down to this event. We're starving. All we want is food. We haven't slept for weeks. We get to the event. Oh, so loads of free drinks. We're like, yes, drink back out of this place. Just drink. Loads of free food. We just got into it. Just sitting down there, drunk, eating food, not giving a monkey's toss about anything. Sat down there. Next thing you know, oh, whispers are going around. Hey, we heard you won. We heard you. I'm like, fuck off. Dude. No chance. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, nah. Still getting drunk. Next thing you know, sitting down there. And the winner is Roni Size. My
Roni Size.
the world just spinned. It spinned around. And I was like, proper taken back. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that I would have thought I deserved or that would ever happen to me. I've got no qualifications. The only thing I've ever passed is my driving test. Okay? But the one thing I will say is that I've got a Mercury Music Prize. And I will take that to the grave.
It was a deserved winner because it was such a game-changing album, which is now, fast forward, 20 years. Man, 20 years since that album.
I always say this, you know, maybe at the time, I think they adopted our personalities. They liked us. We were nice guys. We made people laugh. We was a great group of people, and you know, people liked us. You know, and it was a lot of pressure. We took the ball by the horns and we run with it. Drum and bass is a tight knit scene, man. So you gotta make sure you don't fuck with the people in drum and bass, because if you don't allow them, they're gonna let you know. They're gonna tell you to your face, you guys, man, you need to. So for me, we kind of, you know, we had to represent, and there's a lot of stuff we said no to, and there's a lot of stuff that we said yes to. But we did it, and I would say that maybe 10 years ago, I might question it. But when I see now 100,000 people dancing at Glastonbury to drum and bass music and jungle music, I would say yes, we did deserve it, because I think that a lot of time the first people that ever heard that album was the first time they ever heard that music. So.
And so you've regrouped for 2015, and you're doing some live shows again. Is it the original guys still, or is there some modifications?
Well, we're 50-50. We're 50-50. As we all know, that there's some of the members, they've moved on. They had to move on because they've got their own careers. It's like, you know, DJ Dye is massive successful doing his thing. He's not just making drum and bass music, but he's making all different styles of music. Everyone knows that Crust is a remarkable spokesman. I know that he's going to be here today, and he's got a lot to put on the table. DJ Sub now lives abroad, and he's a family man and also still DJing very hard. And we still have Cy John, who's an amazing bass player, all around for those who know him, Mr. Stand-Up himself. And we still have Onali, who's at the forefront. We still have Dynamite. So some of the original members had to move on, but then we have Jay Wilcox, who people in Bristol might know as a great keyboard player, singer-songwriter. And we have D Product, who has been a long-time friend of mine, and you know, a great engineer, a great producer. So we're still going, and we've got a lot of shows this year, some major shows. We've got a brand new album. We can't wait to put this record out. Trust me, I love this record so much. It's made for the stage, it's made for the front room, it's made for the bedroom, it's made for wherever you want it to happen. So I can't wait to
There's
put
a
it
lovers section on there, yeah?
You better believe it. Can't have no love with that, Roni
And
Size.
so when's that album coming out?
Well, that's a question that you should never ask, because things always get put back, and I'm actually going into the studio on Monday to record this horn section.
So it's work in progress, but something to look forward to.
Not really. We've got a sample that I can't fucking clear, so I got to go and re-record it.
Okay.
So it's as simple as that, really. So yeah.
And live shows, you doing Glastonbury again this year?
Glastonbury, we're doing Hideout, we're doing Exit, we're doing. I'm not going to gloat, but if you go onto ronisize.net, you'll see everything that we're doing. You know, we've had an amazing week already. This is like, you know, my 4th event, and I'm going to London straight after here to DJ tonight. It's pretty much every weekend at the moment, and I love it. I feel like it was yesterday when I started. I love this game. I love playing music. I love the crowds. I had some kid come up to me the other day. He goes, "Yeah, my dad used to listen to you." I was like, "Oh my God." He was 16. I'm like, "Damn." I go, "Well, tell your fucking dad to come out next time and get involved."
Yeah. Now listen, there must be some questions for Roni from the audience. Now's your chance. We've got about 15 minutes left. Any questions for Roni here?
Don't leave me hanging.
Come on. Right, his hand went up there first.
Who played it, sorry? Oh, my boy Dillinger. I love Dillinger, man. Yeah, that's cool. You know, it was one. You know, people say about that record, and I can't even remember making it. I remember making the whole batch at the time. I made like 6 or 7 tunes, but I can't remember actually the final element of it, 'cause I was doing the new Console, and I was doing the last bits of the Represent album, and yeah, it was a time. I listen to it now, and I'm like, I made that tune. So, with the help of Sijon as well.
Any other questions?
Don't leave me hanging.
All the way at the back. You might have to speak loudly there. Any collaborators that you got in mind?
Yeah, it's a bit weird that, because I kind of set my wish list up already, and I worked with like Meth, and I worked with Razal, and I worked with Zach, and I worked with Cypress Hill, and lots of different people, and it's always one of those things that when you ask, I would love to do something with someone, like Janelle Monáe, because I just think that she's a character, very different. I kind of think a little bit left. Roni Size is left, you know what I mean? Sometimes I can go right, but I'm never going to go straight down the middle or do what you expect. So, I don't know. Maybe I need to regroup my wish list again, so you can ask me next time.
This lady at the front.
Nice. For those who don't know, it's like, when I first started growing my dreads, I actually started in Glastonbury. I must have been a little bit drunk, and I think I fell asleep, and I woke up and some girl had put all the stuff in my hair, all the bands and everything, and that's when I was like, I'm dreading. So I grew them, and they were called Glastafarians back then, because there was all kinds of stuff going in my hair. And then in about 2001, I had the balls to actually shave it all off and start again. So this one's only quite a young decade, but I'm very healthy. I don't eat meat and take my supplements, so it grows. Thank you. Nice question.
One. This guy at the front here.
I love the story about the electric meter.
Yeah.
Do you have now rules, limitations you place yourself to make sure that you're productive, you get to
Yeah. No. I don't. I wish I did. It's called an A&R man or a manager who kicks you up the ass and says, "Look, Ronnie, just give me the dat." Just not the dat, but just finish it. Having an A&R man, having someone there just to give you that deadline is important. I got a book, and I go through my book, and I make sure by the end of the day, everything that I've listed in my book, I've got ticks by, and I have to have that. So have a book, have your list, and make sure you meet those goals, and then you move on. But don't keep going back, man. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's great if you do have an electric key. Just pull it out, and then that's it. It's gone. You can't go back to it. Oh, sorry, man. It was good. Sometimes it's good like that. You know what I mean? Sod's law, man. Sod's law.
This guy here had a question.
Yeah.
The
Of
outtakes
course.
on the DATs. What's going to happen with those?
Yeah, so we've got all these. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? All these tunes. Not all mine, but there's a lot of good tunes, a lot of even good ideas, just snippets and everything. So, yeah, we're going through the process now of making sure that with the website I have, the runningsize.net, we're going to be able to just access everything that we have and to be able to really have a one-on-one experience with the label and to really not just music, but there's some great footage as well, which nobody's seen. So we're just in the process of archiving that. Is there anyone here who knows how to get high 8 tapes into a machine? Then let me know, because I'm struggling.
Someone's got a hand up at the back. You got a man there.
I said high 8, mine, not DVs. High 8. I'm going to sit back down.
Any more questions for Ronnie? This lad here.
See, it was him. That's what I'm talking about. Mercury Music Prize. That's why.
It completely changed my life. And it was like 20 years ago. I'm from Eastern Europe, so you influence the whole world, I believe. When was the first time you sat down and realized shit just got real?
Great question. Is it still ever real, Ronnie? Is this like a dream?
Yeah, it's definitely still a dream. I'll tell you straight up and down for me. But there's nightmares as well, because as much as there's good stuff going on, you've always got some bad stuff kind of happening in the wings where people are always trying to test you. And I think when it gets real is when you do an article in a magazine and somebody misquotes you and they take it and they work against you. I think I did an interview and they asked me, are you going to go and see Run DMC? I goes, yeah, of course I am, of course I am. They goes, oh, you're going to get kitted out in your Adidas. And at that time I was sponsored by Adidas. I goes, no, I'm going to be wearing my Reprazent gear. Roni, this is Adidas from page whatever. Got dropped by Adidas. That's when shit gets real. And I don't like that.
Question here.
Crazy. I always boast this. One thing I like to boast about is like, I'm glad that my popularity came before YouTube fame. That's a good rhyme, that is. That kind of works. Because when you're allocated an hour on terrestrial TV, that is one of the highest privileges. I remember we did Radio 1 and BBC simultaneously live for the anniversary all at the same time. And that is, to me, very, very different about YouTube fame and internet fame. No, nothing against internet fame and YouTube fame. It's all good. Every medium's good, but nothing being better than giving an hour slot on terrestrial TV Saturday night when everyone's watching. That's got to be, the highest accolade you can get, really, right? Especially before match of the day.
But do you think the internet has helped your reach? It's gotten your music to further places than perhaps the traditional methods of physical
absolutely. The
format.
internet, we all know that's a question that you don't even need to ask. But as much as it highlights all the good stuff, the internet can highlight some of the shitty stuff as well. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, that's just the way that it is. Sometimes you might do a mix and you're clanging and you're tired. You just got off an aeroplane. You're knackered. You've done 5 gigs. You go on, you're trying to play in front of 10,000 people. Your first mix, the records jump in. It's like all over the place. You're shit. It's all over the internet. It's there for life. Do you know what I mean? So it works good. Sometimes it works bad. It's a magnifying glass. That's what it is. But I like it. As you know, I'm an internet baby.
Yeah. Any other questions here?
Oh, that question again is real. There's a guy called Verdict I like at the moment on Director's Cut. He's rolling at the moment. I'm not gonna lie, and it's not really about just the individual artists. There's some labels like Viper and Hospital who are really starting to make an impact now. The way that the music's being adopted by the mainstream at the moment, I don't know. If drum and bass needs to be pop music, you know what I mean? It needs to be popular, but I don't know if it needs to be pop music. You know what I mean? Drum and bass has always been trying to work against the grain. It likes to pop its head up, says hello, and goes back down and does its thing. But at the moment, it just seems to have its head way above the clouds, and there's only one way down. Do you know what I mean? So, that's just my personal opinion. But I wouldn't mind a top 10 hit.
Any final questions? We're running out of time fast. Anyone else? Anything they'd like to ask Roni?
Well, do you know what? I would just like to just say that, it's great to see, some faces here and my friend MD here. We had some great times back in the day. You used to set up a barnyard way out in the middle of the Hannum, and we used to go there with our sound system. There was about a handful of us, and that was like a real moment, wasn't it, back in the day? Oh, shit.
You are part of the YouTube, Roni.
Oh, shit. Oh, dear. Crazy shit. Yeah. And it's these kind of moments. It's like out of sight, out of mind. Is a funny thing. It's like there's a band called The Heavy as well. And the main singer from The Heavy, I think I did a show with him back in about 1991. And someone showed me the clip on YouTube, and I couldn't believe it. He was called MC Black at the time. And it was like me on the keyboard. It was like MC Black and these two guys, Paul and Andy from Absolute. The internet, that word again. You can run, but you can't hide.
Listen, we've run out of time, but you've got to check out Roni and Represent this summer. He's, by the sounds of it, he's going to be absolutely everywhere. And many thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here today, especially on home turf as well. Let's have a warm round of applause for Roni Size. Thank you very much.
Thank you.